When you purchase or sell a home, there is an adjustment between the buyer and seller for the annual municipal property tax. Let's find out how the adjustment works. Municipalities collect property tax from properties in order to pay for municipal services. There may also be an amount collected to pay for provincial education taxes, as well as local improvement charges and community levy allocations. In most Alberta municipalities, taxes are assessed for the period of January 1st to December 31st of each year. Property taxes are due in the middle of the year, on June 30th. Property taxes can be paid annually as a lump sum payment to the municipality, in which case the amount is due June 30th, monthly to the municipality under their monthly tax payment plan. This allows you to spread your property tax payments over the year. Your payments for the year start in January and end in December. You may be able to add your property taxes to your mortgage payment. The mortgage lender through which you pay your mortgage can add your tax payments to your mortgage payment and can submit payment to the municipality on your behalf. When you buy or sell a home, there will be an adjustment on the closing statement in favor of the seller or buyer for each of the parties' share of the property tax. The adjustment will be based on the total property tax amount, the closing date, and will depend on whether the property taxes have been paid or not for the year. The municipality does not provide for this adjustment, which is completed by the lawyers on closing. If your transaction closes before taxes are due, before June 30th, the seller will not have paid the property taxes for the year, January 1 to December 31. The seller is responsible for the property tax from January 1 to the closing date. The buyer is responsible for the property tax from the closing date to December 31st. The buyer will be responsible for paying the total property tax when due on June 30th. The buyer will receive a credit on closing from the seller for the seller's share of the property tax. If your transaction closes after taxes are due, after June 30th, the seller will have paid the property taxes for the year, January 1st to December 31st. The seller is responsible for the property tax from January 1st to the closing date. The buyer is responsible for the property tax from the closing date to December 31st. The seller will receive a credit on closing from the buyer for the buyer's share of the property tax. This means the buyer will pay the seller an additional amount on closing equal to their share of the current year's taxes, which will have been paid in full by the seller. Local improvement levies are adjusted as of closing, even if they were assessed prior to your purchase and amortized. Monthly payments. In some cases, the seller will be enrolled in the monthly property tax payment plan, which they will cancel upon the sale of the property. The closing adjustment will take into account the seller's share of the property tax and the amount paid by the seller to date for the current year. This will usually result in a small adjustment in favor of the seller or buyer. The buyer will then be responsible for paying the balance of property tax due for the year. If the closing is after June 30th, the balance will be due immediately upon closing. Once the monthly tax payments are canceled, and if it is after the annual due date of June 30th, then the balance is due immediately. In some cases, the buyer is able to continue with the monthly property tax payments. Property taxes paid with your mortgage payments. If you will be paying your property taxes with your mortgage payments, your mortgage lender will collect a payment with each of your mortgage payments. However, the mortgage lender pays the municipality the annual lump sum property tax when due in June. In order to have collected sufficient funds to pay a full year of property tax in June of the current year, the mortgage lender must collect payments beginning in June of the previous year. This will allow for 12 months of payments to be collected. If you are purchasing a property after June 30th, when taxes for the year have already been paid, on closing you will be paying the seller your share of the property tax from the closing date to December 31st. You will also start paying the property tax installment immediately on your next mortgage payment. Remember, this is paying in advance for the following year property tax. In some cases, where you are purchasing a property after June 30th and there are less than 12 months before the next year property taxes are due, your mortgage lender may increase your monthly property tax installment payment to make up for the difference. For example, if you are purchasing a home in December and there are 6 months left until property taxes are due, the lender may double your tax payments for the first 6 months. The lender may require you to pay the difference on closing. For example, if you are purchasing a home in December and 6 months are left until the property taxes are due, the lender may require you to pay 6 months of property tax immediately on closing. If you are purchasing a property in the few months leading to the property tax due date, the lender may not pay the property tax at all in the first year. You will be required to pay the property tax when due, and the lender will start to collect for the following taxation period. Supplementary property tax assessment. If you are buying a new home from a builder, the municipal property tax for the current year is usually not assessed on closing. The closing adjustment between the builder and the buyer will be based on the property tax amount from the previous year, which is usually based on the land value only. Once the property is complete, the municipality will issue a supplementary property tax assessment. You will receive a supplementary assessment and tax notice because the value of your property has increased during the current taxation year due to the new construction. Your notice will also show the number of supplementary months your property was completed or occupied. This date may not reflect the actual date that you took possession of the property. The buyer is responsible for paying the amount due by the due date. In most cases, the purchase and sale agreement with the builder does not allow for any readjustments to the property tax amount following closing. There are variables that affect how the property taxes will be adjusted on closing. The scenario that applies to you will be fully explained at your lawyer signing meeting. Rest assured that you will be paying only the portion of the annual property tax that you are responsible for.